Now we're going to continue the regular teachings on that we do on this Tuesday evening. So we are right now on the last part of the perfection of wisdom. We discussed last week about the qualities of the meditation that surpasses path of accumulation to path of preparation, which has the heat and the peak and forbearance and excellent Dharma meditative concentration, to those who are now beginning to have connection to realize the next path, that is path of seeing. And we concluded last week about the four particular distinctive attributes of having sort of realized four definitive factors of the path of preparation, that being heat, peak, forbearance, and excellent Dharma. The attributes of what it means to become familiarized with the meditation, attributes of the clarity of your mind, because then your mind become very, not just conceptually clear about the emptiness of self, but your meditation itself is very, 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 very increasingly boosting its clarity in one's mind, and therefore also has the attribute of stability. Your mind is really stable, and not only in session, but even outside session, your mind is very stable to see the emptiness of self. And therefore your everyday meditation, formally and informally, is providing this very correct environment. It doesn't matter whether you are quiet in a bush by yourself or whether you're in the middle of a very busy city. Your mind is very still and very clear and very cognizant of the illusoriness of all things. Because post-meditation, you see everything as illusion. During the meditation, you are seeing everything as emptiness. At the very beginning of meditation, you are always filled with the bodhicitta motivation. So the bodhicitta motivation is that which you service and access and relate to all sentient beings. But yourself is always resting in the state of meditation on emptiness. So due to great compassion, you are not detached from samsara. And due to your wisdom, you are not attached to nirvana. And as a result of that, your meditation and its quality, its duration and time, there is never too dangerous of time being too short to have the cognizance of the meditative concentration. You don't need a long time to meditate to have the clarity of mind. So which is a really great gift. So that's as far as our teaching covered. So and then it moves to the chapter 4, which is called the universal path, which is the path of seeing. Yeah? Path of seeing is basically the culmination of seeing of the emptiness of self. And so all of that, Rongton says, we have discussed that already in above, which is true. We talked about the emptiness of self in relation to when you practice generosity or when you practice patience or something. Whatever paramita you practice, as long as you have the right motivation of the what we call armored intention of bodhicitta, and an armored intention of altruistic motivation, when you carefully check it, test it, and verify it, then you engage the bodhicitta. After you engage the bodhicitta in any of the 6 paramitas, you are actually able to intersect all of them together, and then you also have the ability to meditate on the emptiness of the 3 circles, emptiness of the ego who practice these, emptiness of the object to which you practice with, and emptiness of the actual action. Emptiness meaning that neither of these are mutually exclusive. They're all mutually inclusive. So only when you have an object to practice kindness to, or generosity to, or tolerance to, then only your tolerance dependently exists. But otherwise, no matter how much you think you are tolerant, you can't prove your tolerance. There's no tolerance that inherently exists by itself. Tolerance exists only in relation to someone causing you harm or difficulties. So therefore, instead of seeing I'm a tolerant person and develop grasping to, one sees my tolerance is empty of inherent existence. It wasn't someone else doing this hard lifting to instigate me. And so there are more cause of my tolerance than my tolerance of itself. So therefore, the insight, emptiness of self is not full of what you did, even if it's tolerance, but you do not see that as truly existing thing. It is totally dependent on the others. Now, there are not many people who aren't tolerant. They are tolerant, but they become attached to their tolerance. They resent to their tolerance, as their tolerance has been wasted. Their tolerance doesn't exist until there's someone else to do the dirty lifting. You need someone to sling the mud at you. To have the good merit to practice tolerance. You can't practice tolerance yourself. Well, try that by hitting like this on your head again and again and again. See whether you then you can't test your tolerance with someone who's nice to you all the time. Someone who's nice to you all the time is spoils you. It doesn't teach you tolerance at all. It spoils you. His Holiness Dalai Lama's. I remember the one teaching he gave. I don't know where he gave this. He's amazing. He says, we have the Tibetan textbooks in Buddhist teachings, and the first chapter is to Guru devotion. He says, this Guru devotion spoils them. He says, Guru devotion spoils the Guru, and they don't let them to grow properly, strong, robust Gurus. So you have to actually, the Guru needs their own kind of challenges, obstacles, and then see whether they are tolerant, whether they are humble, whether they are generous. Otherwise they do not know what's the true color of them. So he saw the Dalai Lama says, this Guru devotion is cause of Lamaism. We shouldn't put that in the first chapter. he says all this Lamrim is really written in 15th century. You can see why it is like that. He says in the 20th century, we have to turn this chapter back to front. and so like that. So yeah, of course, even the gurus are great, but if they all bow down, everybody honors them unconditionally, they cannot cultivate their real qualities because they're spoiled by these qualities. They need to be met with all the difficulties. they need to work at the, what do you call it, in the factory floor for a couple of 6 months or something like that before they are coronated or they're enthroned. Even they did all these academic studies first, So in order to know that their virtuous quality is not inherently existing virtuous quality, unless it's tested with the opposite. So here the emptiness of self means whatever we do are not itself inherently good unless it's in relation to something else. So that's the fifth chapter. Fifth chapter. Fourth chapter rather, and now the sixth one is the chapter which is called this sixth chapter is the chapter on the what we call the Buddhist the Buddha gene or Buddha race. So Buddha race means all the Buddha nature that we all have is the basis. Buddha nature is the basis of developing these above-mentioned realizations. Above-mentioned support of the realization, and objects are for the purpose of removing the doubts. Objects are because if you see someone as someone and you don't see Buddha nature in them, but you think you have the Buddha nature, you couldn't see the Buddha nature in them, So therefore, objects are for the purpose of removing your doubts that they have Buddha nature. So if you have Buddha nature, you should see the Buddha nature in others. And therefore, objects who appear differently in your mental horizon are themselves a remover or tester of your doubts. So if you have doubts, it's not about how the objects are, because objects are opinion of the subject. If the subject, we ourselves, has a Buddha nature, we should see others with kindness. We should see others also has Buddha nature, and therefore treat them with these kind of right attitudes of one who has a Buddha nature. So therefore, one's own doubts are mainly doubts about objects are not doubts about the object. Doubts about your own cultivated form of Buddha nature. If your Buddha nature is properly cultivated, then you will not doubt about the object, because objects are simply reflection of what you are thinking. It's more reflection of your thought rather than of the object. So when you are fully matured and nurtured Buddha nature, you see the Buddha nature in other beings without any doubt. So when you have doubts about someone, it's mainly about doubts about your own incongruent kind of qualities. So therefore, one need to develop, harmonize those sort of uncomfortable qualities. The purpose of the Buddha race is the obtainability of the resultant Buddha nature. Resultant Buddha nature is the purpose. That your Buddha nature, you got to believe in the seed, that it's actually can, if the seed is correct cause of the seed of the fruit you wanted to cultivate, then you should always bet on the very seed that you are cultivating, because if you don't have the aim to attain Buddhahood, knowing that you don't have Buddha nature, you would more likely to give up on any sentient being who are difficult with you. But when you have cultivated altruistic motivation to work for and with all sentient beings, then every sentient being is cause of your objective to attain enlightenment. And the more harder the sentient beings present themselves, that much your cause is valid. Your cause to attain enlightenment is more valid, more difficult the sentient beings are. that much harder we need to practice as a bodhisattva. So therefore, that is the succinct description on the importance of the what we call the Buddha potential, Buddha race. So that's the 5th chapter. That's very short. Now the 6th one is armoring, practice of armoring. Now we discussed this before, that you have to armor your practice. Practice of armoring is that armoring you of your they are armoring your practice of any of the 6 paramitas. You need to armor them with the right intention, and so therefore, if each of the 6 paramitas are armored with each of the other 5 paramitas, so intersecting generosity with generosity, generosity with discipline, generosity with patience, generosity with diligence, and so on, is called armoring your what you call practice. Armoring your practice. So armoring has a meaning of making it to bulletproof. Don't you think? Bulletproof. Armoring is bulletproof. So when somebody is miserly towards you, you're not whinging. You're not whinging their miserliness, thinking I'm generous, but you're not. That kind of thing. You say when you are fully armored, generous practitioner, when you see miserable or miserly people, maybe they are not really miserly. It's just testing your bulletproofness or lack of it. So it's very, don't you think it's very amazing, isn't it? Whether your generosity is armored or not. Maybe you gave so much, okay? But you just feel, there's no one generous like me. I'm the only one who gives. Nobody gives as much as me. It's a really aluminium. I think that's aluminium. This is not gold plated, So one who is generous never says he is generous, never complains others are not. And he's completely armored. He never mentions of his generosity. He never complains that others are miserly. Even if there are plenty of people who are miserly, but he never complains they are. He realizes, this is testing of my own inability to see their other virtues. Maybe they didn't give as much as you do. Maybe they didn't come as early as you did. But how do you know they are not generous, So you can't really tell, somebody have done a lot more work than what we know. We may know only some things, but 1 or 2 person talks about somebody, but we usually think our opinion is formed by that. It's unarmored, so armored bodhicitta, armored diligence, it should be bulletproof of miserliness. Armored discipline should be bulletproof of one's own lack of discipline and bulletproof of those who are not disciplined. Those who are not disciplined, you don't complain about them. You don't put down them. You don't criticize them. You actually become more kind towards them. I used to be there years ago myself, struggling like them. I had to be kind to them. Instead of being righteous and impatient to others, they have little discipline, and they use that as a cause to be intolerant, judgmental of other people, arrogant of their own discipline. The one who's disciplined should be hide his discipline. Never mention he's good at this, and never look down on other people. That's a bulletproof. That's a what do you call? That is the armored discipline. Armored discipline means his or her discipline doesn't fall into pieces when other people do not mind theirs. But because once it's so armored means it's not breakable, isn't it? Armored means not ordinary car, Armored means not ordinary windows, they think double glazing is not armored, the armored discipline must be more than double glazing, maybe sixfold glazing. I don't know. There's a word for sixfold glazing. Come on, you tell me about metallurgical things. Sixfold is glaze, Armored tolerance. Armored tolerance means someone harms you, but you see them as your benefactor of your tolerance, rather than reacting with resentment and being intolerant and being so vindictive. These are unarmored tolerance. So like that, you've tried armored diligence, armored diligence. Person whose diligence is not armored is very, very quick. They want to do quickly, but slowly their steam run out, and then they disappear. The one who's armored is steady and continuous, like the life of His Eminence Loding Khenchen Rinpoche. He's been like that all along, when he was a young boy, till when he was really enthroned, and people like me have met him a long time ago, and I spent 2 years translating and traveling with him in Southeast Asia in 1985 and 1986, people of all kinds of people come to see him, ask for this, do for this, from non-believers to believers and so on. You got to see that things doesn't get dented and things are difficult very quickly. No, continuously, very steady. So we're talking about the armored diligence that is kind of very motivated at the very beginning, smiling and cheerful, all of a sudden foul face and have now no inspiration left. It's not like that. Always continuously, like a gold is always gold. No matter what you do, it's always stays gold. So this is talking about armored diligence, and then armored meditation. So we discussed all of these 6 parameters, didn't we? And the 6 different ways of doing it with each of the perfect qualities of what six perfection warrants. It is rather like worldly people go to fight after donning on the armor. Yeah, you know, all the people go, or the anti-missile, they go anti-missile. So even the enemies got missile, you don't mind, because you can just fire down, you can shoot down all the missiles like that. You're not afraid, because you have donned yourself armored with bodhicitta. This is not talking about physical. This is donning yourself with the bodhicitta. Selflessness is the best armor. All suffering is caused by selfishness. You don't need anybody to attack you. You're already attacked by yourself, by selfishness. Most of suffering is self-caused. So therefore, we need to armor ourselves with selflessness. For example, when practicing real giving up any selfish intention is armoring the discipline of generosity. See? Yeah? So giving, of course you're giving time or whatever, but you have no hidden agenda of getting something back, but solely to benefit the other. That's the armored generosity. So discipline of generosity has discipline, and the eagerness to forbear any difficulty in giving is armoring it with patience. Yeah? So you don't mind, like some of the people, not somebody, all the time, in Sri Lanka and Thailand and Burma and many Buddhist countries, the devotees wake up 4:30 in the morning, cook amazing meals, and whether it's raining or shining, they go on the street, wait for the Sangha to arrive, So it's not that, today is wet, I wouldn't go, let the monks walk past my house. No, they always go there. They always go there, forbear any difficulties in giving the food. I saw them in Bangladesh. It's down so heavy rain. The monks are coming in the rain. This is pouring rain. This is not a small drizzle. Pouring with rain. There are half a dozen monks coming. All the lay people coming out, their saris, everything completely soaked. But still they bring, over the food and bow down in the water on the puddle, and then for food. That's kind of this diligence that goes with giving. Giving up selfish intention is the armoring of discipline. Giving that with eagerness and forbearing the difficulties, task that in giving is armoring the patient. Not losing the continuity of relentless energy is armoring diligence. Giving that is so intent and focus is armored meditation in the giving. So you're armoring the generosity with meditation, and having the wisdom to give by knowing, and gathering all aspects of unmistaken methods is armoring it with wisdom. So you can give that, but you don't think that I'm the donor. You don't think like that. If he doesn't ask me, if poor people don't beg me, I can't do any generous thing. So they are just as a mutual cause of my generosity as much as my generosity. Even my generosity is not my own things. I got payment from my job, from my boss, maybe. So if I didn't have a job, I couldn't be generous. So all things are interdependent originated. There is no need for me to be central figure, to be think that I'm the one who did the generosity. That is the armored practice of the six paramitas. So this is what we call practice of armoring, intersecting all the six paramitas. This fitness to practice this doesn't happen unless you have these previous chapters understanding of the meditation, path of accumulation, path of preparation, and path of seeing. Now this is all subsequent to the path of seeing practice. One should know, this in this way. So that's an example of generosity armored by other five paramitas. One should know how to do that, how to intersect from self-discipline to meditative concentration. So you should do that with each for example. And the basis for their distinction and similarities. Outwardly it may take form of patience maybe, but Outward, it takes form of patience, but it's full of generosity. It's full of discipline, full of diligence, full of concentration, full of wisdom. So outward may be form of diligence and so on. So therefore it says the basis of their distinctions are the flavor is maybe generosity or discipline or patience, but they're all similar in terms of how to make all the 6 parameters in one. One should know how to practice the with 5-fold synthesizing methods of according to the former. Synthesizing all the 5 essence of the 5 into whatever happened to take in the out form. However one wanted to take the form. Like when we talk about practicing loving kindness, they talk about loving kindness as a 4 immeasurable practice should be done with the determination, should be done with promise, should be done with the supplication, should be done with the dedication. So you might say verbally, may all living beings have happiness, the cause of happiness, but that looks like more like a prayer. But you got to say that outwardly as a prayer, but deep down as a promise, and deep down as a determination, deep down as a dedication, deep down as prayer. So like that, outwardly you might practice any of the 6 parameters manifestly, but deep down, all the 5 other facets are complete in the perfection of wisdom. In the perfection of wisdom. How can you do this? It can be observed 2 ways. How the qualities are complete or not. You got to subjectively check with your intent and outward performance. How the qualities are complete and how they are complete from how the opposites are abandoned. Opposites are opposites of the generosity is miserliness, and how the opposites of feeling I'm generous, feeling they empower me to be generous. See, amazing. Instead of thinking I have been generous, thinking that they actually empowered me to be generous. The Bodhisattvas thank the others for beating them. Bodhisattvas, thank you for beating me. By the way, I had an interesting conversation today with somebody. He said, His Holiness Dalai Lama's got one brother, And this brother of His Holiness Dalai Lama, he has admittedly said that he's a little bit crazy. He's a little bit emotionally quite disturbed sometimes. And he sometimes, people think I'm not sound up here, But he's considered to be quite an interesting character, And a few years ago when he came to Australia, with His Holiness Dalai Lama, he just came to one Tibetan. He says, I really feel like beating somebody now. He says, I really feel like beating somebody today. Of course, why he's saying that, But interesting, because if he doesn't beat somebody, everybody's too nice and they don't grow. If he try to beat something, maybe he would probably wear the blame, but the other person has the opportunity to practice. Someone has to do that. So like that, you have to always think of okay. When it says the perfections are complete insofar as knowing how the qualities are complete, how they are complete, and how the opposites are abandoned. If your miserliness is not abandoned, if you need to be complimented by the recipient for your generosity is not abandoned, even you're generous, but you still have this feeling, I need to be complimented, I need to be acknowledged. I never received the acknowledgement, they call it. So the real generous person doesn't have the need to receive the compliment. That's a sign of, because it says how the opposites are abandoned. How the opposites are abandoned. So you don't have the opposites of compliment is lack of compliment, So that's what he saw, the Dalai Lama says. His brother says he wanted to beat somebody. And the man who heard him said, this is Dalai Lama's brother, and he's like this. And everybody come here to receive teachings. He want to beat somebody. Maybe someone has to play the role of Mara to see how great the Buddha is, maybe. So you must see, sometimes if somebody is difficult to you, it might be very necessary for your growth if you're seeking growth. So what he's saying is, we have to see how the opposites are abandoned or recognize that need abandoning, maybe you practice a little bit of patience with somebody, then you realize, I need to practice more patience. That wasn't enough. So you realize how much more you need to practice because you haven't practiced before. So you get to know what is complete and what is incomplete, what is correct and what is incorrect, and how much of the opposites are still lingering there. So you'll be able to know this. Now this goes to elaborate this. For instance, because he said there are two ways, how the qualities are complete and how they are complete from how the opposites are abandoned. These two things. First one is how the qualities are complete is, firstly, realization of not observing any visible and auditory phenomena is the nature of the wisdom. Yeah. So now this is talking about how you need to use your wisdom. Encouraging and supporting others to gain knowledge and wisdom constitute giving. Now this is talking about generosity. Here, sometimes people talk generosity out of the four types of generosity: material generosity, and then emotional generosity, and knowledge generosity, and through loving kindness generosity. Usually, so here, encouraging and supporting others to gain knowledge and wisdom constitute giving. So this is empowering others, supporting other people, empowering them to do that they feel too anxious to start. And you just sit there to support them, to empower them to boost their confidence. That is actually giving. That's really empowering somebody so that they're giving them the knowledge, giving them the wisdom, and that is giving of wisdom, giving of knowledge. Giving of material things is easier to practice, but giving of knowledge, most people don't have the knowledge to give to others. No, of course the conventional knowledge, just to feed oneself, to clothe oneself, find a good roof in oneself, for oneself, and medicine when these are also good. These are practical. These are practical knowledge. Very good. I mean, TEF College is full of them. TEF College did all these practical knowledges. It costs about $2,000 to do one unit, by the way. Then it comes very cheap. So we're talking about gift of knowledge, empowering them with wisdom, giving them the wisdom how to understand the suffering and its cause of it, and empowering them to detect that with their own egocentricity as the root cause of it. That kind of power, empowering them to see this very hidden cause of suffering, that society doesn't have an eye to spot it, but only need the wisdom of the enlightened mind to show that empowering them to free themselves from misery by giving them the knowledge of perfection of wisdom, perfection of generosity. Having no selfish intent of any kind, but doing it with all sincerity and tested altruism contains the quality of right discipline. So this we were talking about how the qualities are complete. You need to see the qualities of how the quality of discipline constitute there, how quality of generosity constitute there, facing and taking on all the hardships, and without expressing any grievances is the quality of patience. Yeah, never moan and groan. Never, no moaning and groaning. And just do it, just needs to be done. The Bodhisattva just need to be done. Facing and taking on all the hardships, all the blames, all the put downs, without expressing any grievances, is the quality of patience. They say patience is the highest virtue, because you're learning to withstand hardships so that this hardship doesn't spill over to others. Because if you collapse, have a nervous breakdown, now the next person, it's his turn. The next one is already trembling, just watching you collapse. So how many patients we can train? How many people we can train to become patient? Very few, because there's the one in the front is collapsed, the third one is trembling, fifth is running. No, we have to be the one who will be the front runner and face and take. And that's the courage. That's the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is the soldier who's armored. Who's armored, remember? Who's bulletproof. And therefore face and take all the hardships. And even when he faced the hardships, he never expresses the grievances. You see your footy players like that. They're all covered in mud and they're all jaws broken, and still they say, I'm okay. Just to do a little bit, pushing this ball over that side of the line. You can do that, but you can't do it for altruistic purposes, for this, distressed sentient beings. Of course. So your cause of not expressing your grievances is motivated by bodhicitta. Your jaw may have broken. You might have a shoulder broken. You might have some ribs broken. But you got quite a few ribs, Yeah, you think like that. I got a few more ribs. How many times have you practiced patience to test how many ribs you have? Lots of people have many broken noses, but just over a ball. See? Facing hardships. Do the tackling, Early morning, they do all kinds of those things. When you watch the training of the footy, you will see they're actually training them resilience for just the sake of for a ball. But we were for the sake of higher purposes. So enthusiasm for the sake of gaining the perfection wisdom is the right effort. See? So we're talking about the qualities there. You need to watch the qualities, how each of the 6 parameters are present. Like we are listening here, this is not really difficult concept to understand. And so you can't get confused. Hope not. But I'm good at confusing you tonight, and I'm all over the place. And don't start on time. And just says, can you wait there? I have to go to toilet. And then don't come for 2 hours. Expect you to be there. this sort of thing, of course, wouldn't go very well. because we have only limited kind of span of concentration, hour and a half at the most. After that, we start looking at the watch. So we have to learn. I'm not talking about this situation, but in life, try to have that kind of resilience. Yeah, engaging this without any distraction is the meditation. So meditation is not just on the cushion, being able to count your breath or sit for a particular length of time without disturbance. That's really good, formal. But better still is you do your work, what you have to be done, without any loss and depletion of your concentration. See, engaging all the above without losing the concentration, which is attention. is meditation. So meditation is not just sitting still only. Sitting still. The owls do that very well on a very small piece of twig on the branch. They sit there whole night. It's very good. The owls can sit still very long. So here we're talking about applied armored bodhicitta, where you remain very, very fixed with your attention. So that's the first one. First one is what? How the qualities are complete. Yeah, 6 param. Now the second is how they are complete from how the opposites are abandoned. Okay? Now let's go over this. This is very beautiful. Elimination of the opposite of the 6 paramitas, such as the seeds of miserliness, lack of discipline, aversion, laziness, distractibility, and pervert knowledge constitute the perfection. Elimination of this opposite. Yeah. So there's absence of ill will, absence of miserliness, absence of expressing grievances, saying it was so hard, so difficult. They are not difficult. They're difficult, but you just accept them willingly, without showing weariness, moaning and groaning. And you don't say, oh, it was so hard, I did it, I'm glad, type of thing. You don't even mention what you have to do. So, when engaging in the practice of the 6 paramitas, one engages in giving in post-meditation. Now, this is post-meditationally, how much more generous you are in terms of thinking good things, kind things towards other people. Generosity doesn't mean you should always empty your pocket and like that. It could be, see how generous your thoughts are, how kind your thoughts are towards other people, and how generous you are in terms of accepting someone's aggression towards you. Yes, it may look like a patience, but it's also generosity, you see. You are very good at tolerating somebody, but your tolerance comes from the generosity of willing to bear the mistreatment towards you. So therefore you can see how they are intersected. The seeds of these virtues, you can see. One engages in giving post-meditationally. In both meditation, post-meditation, one exercises all restraints. All restraints meaning miserliness, lack of discipline, impatience, laziness, distractibility, and lack of wisdom from any wrongdoing, and implement those antidotes as a prevention from occurring of the opposite, and as well as immediate application to stoppage of those antitheses from taking you over at all times. Also, one practiced tolerance both within and outside meditation. By restraining hatred or ill will, he practices actual conduct of patience. So it doesn't mean that you don't retaliate someone in front. That would be good. Of course, people will see you didn't retaliate. Whether you're patient or not, who knows? You're even more angry. You're more angrier than the one who attacked you. one who's a little bit aggressive on the outside, was a short span. After that, there was no resentment. Maybe he feels sorry already. But you didn't say anything bad or didn't do any retaliation, but deep down you're seething years after. So one needs to understand that. If that's happening, you need to know how that has to be remedied. Implement the antidote at all times. So if you're sitting there on the bed about to sleep, but you still have this lot of unresolved issues, don't go to bed and do something about that. Practice, Very good. Yeah, there's a leaking roof. Yeah, can you go and sleep when the roof is leaking? I doubt so, So you go ahead and fix the roof, isn't it? There's a plumbing doctor, plumbing roof, roof fixers. You will straight away go and ask them. you will straight away go and ask them. You don't wait for the rain to leak through your roof, always like this. You will go and quickly fix. So therefore, one needs to implement the repellent or antidote. Also, one practices tolerance within and without meditation. By restraining hatred and ill will, one practices actual contact patient. During each of the practice of giving, and discipline and patience, one strive with right effort is right effort. Yeah, even when one is doing diligence or when one is practicing tolerance, there needs to be some kind of joy in practicing tolerance, Then it's not. It is, it's just like you're taking an injection. You're just taking the jab. I mean, we have short-lived jab tolerance practice. Someone's poking needle to you. Did you know that? Oh, you deliberately go and pay $75 to poke a needle on your arms. You must be pretty tolerant. You must have some hidden agenda. You must have some hidden. See, people have patience when they want to. when they want to, they have heaps of patience. They actually pay the guy to poke needle over his body. So maybe he's got, this will cure my illnesses. See, it's a treatment is like that, So you're diligent. You're diligent to receive an injection, but you're not diligent to someone just give you a nasty look. The person giving nasty look is sick, But the injection is not sick. So we should look after the sick people then. So this is talking about doing this with equal composure is meditative concentration. Yeah. So this is now true practitioner. His meditation is doing the patient thing with meditative composure. Doing the diligent thing with the lot of forbearance of hardships. These are the 6 parameters. These are the qualities that you must have both during and after. Realization that all the above do not have any inherent existence. Even you did the perfect, still that is the wisdom, not attached to what you did. Of course, you never tell you did, And also, you never say, I've realized emptiness, okay? Don't make that mistake, Means you haven't. And don't ask for a certificate that you've done this course. Thus, by means of employing both in meditation and in post-meditation period, the 6 perfections have been completely employed, And this is armoring. Now, this is the 6th chapter, to armor. So you will find numerous times you are having to be patient or be diligent or be focused or be disciplined or be generous or be diplomatic or be forgiving or be understanding or whatever outward. But you can see how all the facets of this in the parameters and right intention, particularly wisdom, not getting attached to what you did, or it has to be very clearly sort of what you call clearly comprehended. You will see the amazing sense of fitness in doing fitness when your mind is in this kind of level of constitution to do the practice. Mm-hmm. So let's meditate for a little while on those very points, how to bring this ability to intersect this armor, the 6 parameters, in relation to the intention and the application, and particularly the wisdom discerning the lack of inherent existence of object, subject, and action from its own side. But then nevertheless feel very, very compassionately needed to practice those very things to help sentient beings who need to be soothed, who need to be supported, who need to be comforted, who need to be understood, who need to be forgiven, who need to be patient with, because we are living on a very conventional world. And what are the places and spaces where we could employ this to boost our our mind, as if we are armored plate. Our car is armored, like your mind is armored with bodhicitta. This is amazing. Rongton's terminology is armoring your bodhicitta, armoring your actions of the 6 parameters, and almost like sixfold armoring, making sure that the five other facets of the parameters are with the one that is more manifest. And the first 5 parameters are always the method side. The 6th one is always wisdom. So wisdom is the actual real thing that harms totally, but you don't compromise the active form of the compassion with the first 5 parameters as something that you need to reach out and outreach the sentient beings who don't get many generous people or understanding people or compassionate people or forgiving people. You see, zero tolerance. This society is zero tolerance. This is so conditioned to be not tolerant, and no wonder why the world is getting worse, because people are becoming more fidgety and restless and more and more impatient. And so that's why we need to train ourselves, create an environment of implementing these practices. So let's sit there and reflect on this for a few minutes. Thank you, everyone. So please feel free to have, if you have any questions or comments, we'll allow a few minutes before we conclude. Yes, hello. Hello, Ralph. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry if I'm a bit slow. Last week we talked about the object and the essential non-interdependence of the object at the beginning level of the meditation about and the practices. And then at the intermediate level we were thinking about just the nature of the non-interdependence of not any one object in particular, but just that fact. My question was, it talked very, very much about literal objects like a book or a mountain or visualizing something very large and small. How do things that are more abstract, like the beauty of a flower or something that makes you feel happy, are they things that can be put into this meditation about a mathematical equation? Some of the things, I spend a lot of my world in a very abstract place where I don't actually have concrete things I can hold anyway, and I'm wondering if I can apply some of these thoughts and processes to helping me understand and feel a more correct way of grasping things which aren't necessarily concrete objects. Do you see what I mean? It's hard to put into words.
Yeah, of course, most of the meditative experiences are not concrete objects. They're more like subjective experiences that may not have any conventional concrete form to look at, because when you are able to have a very fixed attention which transcend the ordinariness of things that we relate on a gross, manifest, operative, objective sense consciousness, becomes a subtle, inoperative, subjective consciousness, which is not domain of the five sensory objects. But nevertheless, there is a subsequent mind that resort to relativize things in relation to what it used to measure or weigh what a thing is by looking at certain thing. Like if you look at a form, the form, as soon as you look at form, you have to look at color or shape or size or weight. So the form isn't really an entity by itself. It is made up of various constituents such as color, shape, size, weight, distance. If the form of the pillar from very near to you is different from where you are looking from opposite, or different distance, or even the color. And a rainbow is not a rainbow from everyone, from every angle. Its rainbow is a kind of it's an apparition, the people who happen to looking from one direction. But when you go to somewhere else, that those appearances do not manifest. So the form itself are not as real as they seem. So abstract description of the form or form or invisible things are still mental formations, what we call mentally conditioned body of ideas. The
It
sanskara,
still feels like an idea. It still
yeah,
feels like an idea, but it's not something I can sense with my five senses. I can still apply the understanding and the processes that we've been looking at to these other concepts, I guess, which are not sensed direct with senses, but are sensed by your mind or something like that.
that's right. So in Buddhist epistemology, they make a great distinction between manifest reality and hidden reality and very hidden reality. And we are now talking about, we are all listening to English conversation, English conversation, because it is manifest auditory phonemes that we know what word what means and so on and so forth. Whereas someone who doesn't speak English, for them the sound is heard, but there is no manifest meaning of the sound they can hear. Not because they can hear the sound, but they don't have manifest imputed meaning of the words to their auditory consciousness.
Imputation.
Yeah,
Right. Okay.
because
Imputation.
yeah, imputed. If we have not been party to the imputing and recognition of the imputation, we don't understand language. So language is repeated imputation and restoring of that imputation and recognizing that imputed sound with the symbols like the spelling and so on. But sometimes people say, people can hear your name, but can you please spell it, they can hear your name, but they can't tell what it is. But when you spell them, then they say, oh, because they have more visual imputation than the sound. And then when you have written something, then people start trying to pronounce what they think is the phonetics or pronunciation of. And maybe they don't know the C is cha or ka or whatever it is. Like my first English school teacher says, "Do you know how to count?" Do you know how to count? He's trying to teach us into English. Do you know how to count? Because he never learned from actual teacher how to say no, because he didn't know that K is silent. So he says, do you know how to count? Because he only knows K is K. He doesn't know K is silent before N. But because he hasn't got the imputation. So when you listen few times, oh, K is silent, then you will say knife. Otherwise you will say knife. You will say knife or knowledge, and you can use all the K as not silent. Knife, kno. Knitting. Are you knitting my sweater?
I apologize for English first time.
So we have what we call in Buddhism, we call Sanskara. Sanskara means usually translated as literally mental formation, which means we are mentally conditioned to pronounce K-N-O-W as no. We are conditioned to, we are taught, we are just influenced. But there is no reason. There's no actual reason to why K has to be silent, But in English, most K are silent before N. So that's one which the K has to, let go his identity. But K before any vowel, it holds its sound. Kite, whatever K sound are followed by vowel, But K followed by another consonant, so it's got a different thing, Got a different thing. When there are two consonants, this is what they call strong strong consonants and weak consonants. So the weak consonant usually loses or becomes silent, where the strong consonant usually takes over, like say, like knife, like. So therefore we have to have stored imputation things in ours, and we have to label them by seeing the word kn. We just say no, we don't say no, and but if you don't see k there, if we don't say the n there, we say, is that ko? Is that ko? And so we are having to make, depending how imputed and mentally conditioned we are to say what, So it's quite interesting how everything is conditioned. Everything is conditioned. Yeah. When you condition, you can class rice, you can class snow, you can class wool. There's a lot of good wool classes in Goulburn, but not in Sydney. It's interesting where the wool clusters are situated. With all farmlands, they know they have a lot of wool specialists there. Okay, everyone, thank you for your attention. We will now conclude here and do this final dedication of merits. May His Holiness Luden Khenchen Rinpoche and all his wonderful, inspiring activities continue to spread the benefit far and wide, and may all beings be kind to each other by following noble examples of the Master like him, and not being impatient, not being negative, not being critical, not being, hard on each other, which is completely waste of time. Om Bade Mere Mere Havaga Dadeva Enzege Honeze Me Aile Bererobe from the ocean of Padore Herenda Mahayana Buddhist whatever merera havagra mehobe beganselavaza tehoda Mahayana Buddhist courage manju shrenuode azama drabadradilava follow it. Oh, desaba ajade dege ode mere mede selem bodhijada tebe vere na yedanza ve has been bo me yedenge freely without generous. Thank you, everyone. Take care.